All right. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, Exclamatic, what's going on? Now, this is just something quick. Actually, second, Adrian. Yeah, this is actually, yeah, this is just actually something real quick because I'm going to address it because I'm tired of getting the doggone letters. You know, Obsidian, I'm not debating you. We have gone through this for years. You've been on my channel for years. You've expressed your viewpoints for years. To say that I'm afraid to debate you is a lie. The thing is, after what transpired a few months ago, uh, I have said it plainly. I don't fuck with you. Okay. And anybody that knows this channel, I have allowed people to come on and talk and debate for years, sometimes individually, even impromptu. I've challenged people to debates individually. And my hangouts has been for all comers. Hey, DJ Fish Grease, what's going on? Hey, Hostile Adept, what's happening? So to say that I don't debate is a lie. To say that I run from intellectualism is a lie. The thing is that when I say I don't fuck with you, that means I don't fuck with you. And trying to get me to engage is not going to work. And since I don't fuck with a certain camp, I constantly get people trying to recruit me back. Um, no, the thing is that I'm tired. You know, people always want to debate me on what they think that they know, and then when they get into a debate, they always get thrown off because they'll say something stupid, and I'll ask them about it, and then they have to go Google it. Hey, Cookie. Every time I saw a so-called debate, they'll say something dumb because they don't completely understand what they're even talking about, and then they have to go Google it. Let's say like um, ABL. He'll talk about the government, the private sector always produces everything that's valuable, and we'll give him a few cases where the government actually financed and produced key technology that we use, and we'll throw out the case, and then they have to go Google it. Once you have to go Google something, that means you've already lost because it's something that you don't know. And then they'll try to argue something that they obviously don't know. If you have to go Google it for the first time, that means you haven't even researched it. That means you don't know, and you're going to get everything wrong. And they fight on getting things wrong. Obsidian's the same way. If you're going to get into an intellectual debate, you can't reject the premise. That's the whole point. So when you try to build an argument, just because the argument is not built the way you want to doesn't mean that it's invalid. You have to disprove that's invalid, and I get tired of that. I'll put something out, I'll make an argument, and people will uh, give their opinions on why the argument is invalid instead of proving that it's invalid. And that's how come I don't even mess with people like that anymore, because um, you debunk their argument, they get emotional, and they get pissy, they get emotional, and they get personal. And the thing is you haven't even shepherded your own information. Just like with Mary Brown and Cynthia G, you haven't even shepherded your information. So when I go back and look at it for the first time and actually investigate it, say, you don't even know what you're talking about, and this is your information. I think the white elites are, well, of course they're going to try to still be on top, and they will say they have sacrificed their people in the past. It's not. You look through European history; they're willing to kill 100 million of their own just to keep power. So they have no problem with killing you. The thing is, history is undefeated. There's nothing they can do about it. Yeah, well, you see that a lot, especially in Clouds for Cheap. Okay, he's a so-called black conservative, and he talked about the crack cocaine era in the hood, and we're talking about the Iran Contras, which he didn't know anything about. So I gave him a month to go back and investigate it, and gave him some resources to actually go look at it. And he came back a month later arguing, and he was still wrong. I got BJ. Um, Basically, what's happening is, and this is not unusual, when one side, especially with me, okay, I'm a good analyst, and finding a good analyst is a good resource. And if one side disagrees with me and they don't fuck with me, I say I don't fuck with them. They trying to recruit you back because at the end of the day, um, there are very few people, very few black people that are not being paid off to do what I do. It takes a long time to become an analyst. Because you have to have so much background material in your head. And a black analyst that's not bound by certain NDAs and that kind of stuff are rare. So I have a lot of people trying to recruit me back into the fold. Obsidian's camp is one of them. So he's trying to engage me back into his orbit because basically he's run out of idea. Ed, you should be able to, after many years of following me, you should be able to explain to them what culture is. It's a simple mathematical equation. It's not that difficult. You know, when I found out it was a simple mathematical equation, then everything after culture is easy to understand. Most people make culture too difficult. Culture is complex, but it is the bottom line. Culture is very, very simple. Culture is no more for human beings. All culture is the resultant in a mathematical term. In other words, one side versus another, the push pull between your environment and the human being and human needs, what your body needs versus the environment. So, for example, if I take a human being and put him in the North Pole, for instance, and he has to live, what's the first thing that his culture has to do? His culture has to develop some kind of barrier between him and the cold. Otherwise, he's going to die. That is culture at its very simplest. Now, and if he can't stay out in the elements and he's got no wood or other kind of materials to build a shelter with, what is he going to do? He's going to chip away that ice and build an igloo because that's the material he has to work with to keep the environment outside, right? If you're in the tropics, you don't need a shelter because your body temperature and the outside temperature are virtually the same. You don't need a shelter. Okay, you might need something to keep the rain off of you, and you're going to use what, sticks and leaves and mud. That is your culture because that's the environment that you live in, and you adapt the environment that you live in to meet your needs, and everything else is just an expression of that. And it gets more and more complex, but at the bottom line, that's what culture is. If you overcomplicate culture and you look at the high level complex culture, you're not going to understand. You have to go look at the simplest case, just like math. Math starts at 1 + 1, or even uh, simpler, 0 to 1. As zero approaches one, when we learn calculus, it's zero approaches one because that's the simplest case, and then you expand from there. Once you understand the simplest case, then you can actually go to more complex case. Culture is not that difficult to understand. And then once you go to culture, then you understand the human physiology, which is men and women. What is a woman's role? as a female? What's her role? And what kind of culture does she have to develop to fulfill her biological imperative? If you understand that, then you can understand female culture. It's not that difficult. Can humans adapt to space? Humans adapt to space just like anything else. They call those spaceships, the Leah. You have to carry your environment with you because there's no environment you can survive in space. You have to carry it with you. How do you do that? So, as far as debates, I just said from now on, especially for people that have already been on, because he's been on already, and a lot of people have been on that want to debate. If you already been on, if you already shot your shot, I said now you have to prove that um, you belong. That I need to give you a debate. I want to debate you because most times if I want to debate somebody or discuss with somebody, it's because it's on a point that needs to be discussed. But one, the audience gets tired of it, and two, I get tired of it too because it goes nowhere because 9 times out of 10, like 99 times out of 100, they don't even know enough to even be in the debate. They're giving their opinion. Well, yeah, it's not even a layer. It's a resultant. Okay. Um, if you take say like a hurricane, okay, it's the resultant between warm water, warm water versus hot water versus um, hot dry versus what cold. And by the time it gets up here, you get thunderstorms, hurricanes, and all that kind of stuff. So that's the resultant. Culture is a resultant. It's not real. It's not a real layer. Culture is an adaptation by with between the environment and human beings. So in other words, um, human beings don't create culture out of nothing. It's got to be out of something. So even your ones and zeros in your computer, it basically has been developed from the elements that's in the earth already. So you build it, you make a machine that does something. The electricity has been generated from something. So basically, all culture is the human beings adapting their environment to suit them. It's an adaptation. That's what the circle is. We draw it as a layer, but it's an adaptation. In fact, I drew the two arrows the uh, from um, from the human beings or human needs, and from the environment, and where those two things meet, that's culture in a simple diagram. So once you actually understand it as a resultant, it's not real. Culture is not real. The stuff that we see around us is not real. It's a resultant between the environment and us. And we have to take the elements from the environment and actually mold it to us. It's called lower income vegan education. What is that? I don't get it. Caramelized sugar. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And a lot of your high level professors talk about culture in a complex way, so most people don't understand it. But the thing is, one thing I like about Quigley, he was a scientist first, and so he made equations so that you can apply it to each case. In other words, when you have a formula is supposed to apply to a broad case. You plug in the variables, and you're going to get a result. And that's what he did. So culture, he didn't do culture as a complex social case. He made an equation out of it. And once you get the equation down and you plug in the variables, you get to understand why culture does what it does. Because we talk about the Europeans and their culture, and their culture exists because their growing season is only short. It's only 3 or 4 months, whereas in the tropics you have 4 growing seasons year round. So if they have 3 or 4 months to grow food and have to survive the other uh, in 8 to 9 months on that on what they have to develop a different culture. In other words, when they grow food, that everything is insistent. Everything survival is urgent. You know, I have to find heat. I have to find shelter. My shelter has to protect me from the cold. I have to use the materials that are around me. And my growing season is so short that uh, that I have to have a very efficient mindset because I don't have if I blow a crop, I don't get another crop. If I blow a crop, I'm dead because I got to survive 8 months off this crop. Um, so we have a very efficient, say, European mindset where everything is from quarter to quarter. Everything is driven by environment. Everything is driven by environment. Your environment, even if you look at the artificial environment that we're in, okay. Um, if I always say, if you look at the environment or what I call the chessboard, okay, if you look at the pieces in the chessboard, it will tell you what moves that a person that in any actor can make, say a president of the United States, okay? You don't look you I mean, you can look at what he stands for and what he says and what his feelings are. That gives you because that is the person or the being, but you also have to look at what political environment that he's working with. If he's working with a good economy and he's working with an upswing of wealth and stuff like that, he's going to be a different president than, say, President Obama right after the crash, or an FDR right after the during the depression. He's going to have a different outlook. If he's in the middle of a war, he's going to have a different outlook because the environment's going to change. So when I look at a president that's coming in and I'm predicting what he's going to do, I said, okay, what is he working with? What did the previous guy do? What is he working? What is he walking into? Because that's the problems he's going to have to solve. And then you can figure out what kind of person he is, and then you can see what pieces he assembles around him. Because the pieces that he assembles around him is will tell you which problem or what kind of problems he's going to attack and how. Because the problems are there. Most people don't look at that. Okay, um, it's easy to say that. Um, Trump was going to have to do cuts. Why? One, because Obama was already doing it. Two, because the political landscape said he had to do it. So the thing uh, is he going to punt the football because the problem's too big? Is he going to attack it aggressively and try to cut it down? And if he does, how is he going to do it? Because the balance is, if you do it too aggressively, you're going to get a revolt because you can't move that many people off of assistance into production. One, because you don't have the jobs, and two is because they're going to rebel. It's going to break. So you have to balance that. So you see, okay, he's in. These are the guys he picked. This is the agenda. How far can he go? You can tell exactly how far he can go. It's not, and if you think about it, most people think about how they feel uh, uh, instead of looking at coldly look at the environment. That's how come I am an amoral pragmatist. I look at the environment, I look at the chessboard, and I say, okay, for him to do this, he has to do A, B, and C. Okay, for him to reach this objective, if he tries to do D, this is going to happen. If he tries to do F, this is going to happen. He has to do A, B, and C. He has to do them in order. And once he makes a decision, that means he's made a decision to go in a particular direction. And once he does that, then everything else has to follow in. I'll say, now, why is he going in this direction? What objective is he trying to reach going in this direction? Say if he's going to give the military more money. Okay, you're giving the military more money because you're trying to exert force. Where are you going to exert that force, and where's it going to show up? So when it shows up, you have an idea. Say, where's the first place he's going to exert that force? Once he does that, then you can say, okay, this is the direction we need to look at. So that's how you do it. And a lot of people that I argue with, they don't understand it from that element. because they're going and by what's popular, what's on CNN or Fox. Fox is not going to explain it to you this way. Fox is not going to give you this side or that side. So you have to look at both sides because that's where the chessboard is. And the chessboard is not just local. It's not just national. It's also international. So how do you integrate with that? Um, White liberals do think they're white. Okay, white liberals are white liberals. At the end of white liberals are not going to sacrifice their well-being for black folks. They're not. I don't know why people think that white liberals are the reason that white liberals have no problem with taking black men's jobs. Okay, white liberals have no problem with taking black men's jobs because basically white liberals are going to eat first. White liberals may give you different kinds of crumbs than say white conservatives. Well, I feel you're wrong because you are. So I, when I even in the last thing I put out, I think it was one thing about I think it was about by Kay Heimowitz, who is a conservative, and what she was talking about is the same thing that I had said previously. I had been saying about the white liberals and feminists actually taking jobs from black men and black women signing on for that. And they said, well, how could you say that? Because you're agreeing with the conservatives. I don't, and people forget, I don't care. I'm not a conservative. I'm not a liberal. Yeah, liberals. Well, I've been around limousine liberals for a long time. KPFK was full of limousine liberals. When black folks started talking their truth, guess what they did? They shut down black folks. They shut down black folks when liberals actually came in and shut down black folks. When they didn't agree with them, did they let them talk? Hell no, they shut them down. So, like Malcolm X said, the fox or the wolf. Liberals are the fox. Okay, conservatives are the wolf. They have different powers. Okay, fox can get into small places and they're very stealthy. Wolves depend on naked power. Oh yeah, basically they shut down the whole thing. KPFA, yeah, shut down the whole thing. Liberals, white people are white people. Okay, just like I put the thing about the feminist agenda was never for black women. Suffrage, when they were calling black folks Sambos. These are liberal white females. They have a liberal agenda for them, and basically they're all liberals. America is nothing but a liberal country. They're not a conservative country. How far do when Larry Elder first came to, I think it's KFI. That's when I first learned about Larry Elder back in 1980. I want to say 1980, 1988, 1987, 1988, when conservative radio first started. I think right after, what's his name? What's the conservative guy's name? KFI became a conservative talk radio station. I think it was 1988 or so. And that's how far back I remember Larry Elder. Didn't like him from the very beginning, but it is what it is. Um, at the end of the day, okay, at the end of the day, any mathematical um, equation. Okay. That's why a lot of mathematics people fail physics because at the end of the day, you have to prove that that mathematical equation is actually valid. It's not valid until you get real world samples. Okay. You can have the most complex mathematical equation. It can look right as far as the numbers balancing and stuff like that until you find a case where that mathematical equation actually works in the real world. It's not valid. It's a theory. It may be a mathematical proof, but it doesn't mean it. Statistics don't mean anything if it doesn't. If it's not predictive, and it doesn't bear out over time, then it's bullshit. I don't care how many statistics you throw up there. It has to. At the end of the day, it has to be right. It has to reflect the real world. So you can come with a stat and you can come with an equation and the numbers check, but if it doesn't bear out in the real world, it's bullshit. So that's how come I go back and I look at stuff that's 20, 30 years old and see what they theorize and see where they were right and where they were wrong. No theory is completely wrong. Some things are right and some things are wrong. And when you come up with a theory, you take the facts, all put them together, and you make a prediction. And it doesn't mean that the facts are wrong. What it means is that your prediction is wrong. You put them together wrong, and they didn't bear out. And well, because physics, the only thing probably worse than physics is probably chemistry. Because if you're not good in the lab, okay, if you don't have patience to be in the lab, you're gonna get your ass beat. Yeah, yeah. Physics is applications, and a lot of your calculus word problems are based in physics because that's what is calculus basically is designed for physics. Those two things actually go together. Yeah, most people don't, and but logic is actually based in math. Logic is actually based in math. It's binary. Logic is actually binary math. You put two things together, see what the result is. You get a resultant, and then you match it against another opposing idea, on and on and on. It's like a decision tree. And as you go up the ladder, it's based on action, reaction, and result. Um, physics is um, physics takes more math. That's all. That's the only difference between physics and chemistry. Chemistry, depending on how far up you go in chemistry, chemistry is a lot of memorization. Chemistry is a lot of time in the lab. Jesus, that's something I never completed. It's a lot of time in the lab. I would love to go back and complete my chemistry degree, but the time in the lab is actually is a killer. You have a lot of patience to be a chemist. Yeah. Well, a lot of it, sometimes there's not a lot of good math teachers out there actually teach it. Geometry shouldn't be too bad. Um, calculus actually, the problem with calculus is that it bangs on um, all your basic, your lower math because it's a culmination of all, and it uses all of it. So calculus will actually find, if you actually take calculus, you actually find out where you're weak at as far as mathematics is concerned, because wherever the weak point is in that chain, calculus will find it because it uses all of it. So if your geometry, your trigonometry, uh, um, algebra is weak, chemistry, calculus will expose it because all those are tools toward calculus. Calculus kicks everybody's ass. It kicked mine until I actually conquered it. Yeah, but it's because math is never taught right. If they teach math right, um, they teach math right. um, then it won't be as bad. But calculus, for most, everything else is grounded in reality. Calculus is not really grounded in reality. Okay, it's highly theoretical. Yeah, it's yeah, most people are weak in algebra. That's what happens. That's what you find out. If your algebra is not to if all those proofs aren't in your head, um, calculus will kick you in your ass. And something as simple as the because if you really if you basically if you can get the distance theory down, most of what calculus is based on is the distance theory because or the line theory as they call it. If you get that down, you can get a lot. You can understand a lot of calculus. But if you can get through calculus, then a lot of your philosophical logic you can kind of understand because it will train your mind to actually think that way. That's what happens to a lot of guys. You get into the soft majors, and you soft majors are mostly dealt in feelings and opinions, whereas you don't have the hard cold math and results actually grounded in, or stats. If you The more math you have, the more objective you can be. Yeah, because because calculus is actually the one math that's abstract. Yeah. So that's but that's where I come from. So when I read Carol Quigley's book and I read his background, I said, okay, because Quigley's book made perfect sense to me, where it doesn't make a sense to a lot of people. Like Tragedy and Hope makes a lot of sense to me because I saw a lot of people saw just history and names, and I saw equations. Because basically, Tragedy and Hope is a very large word problem, a series of word problems, because he gives you culture, he gives you uh, uh, how civilizations are set up in a mathematical formula. Thing is, you have to read it as a mathematical. Everything he does in Tragedy and Hope is a mathematical formula. If you understand it as a mathematical formula, you plug in the variables. You understand. Basically, his idea was you can actually understand social science through mathematics, through equations, through variables. You plug in the variables, like a culture in Russia. Humans are the same in Russia as they are in America, except for the variables. When you throw in the environment, when you throw in their history, which is another variable, when you throw in how the culture is developed, that's where the differences come in. Okay, what's the name of the new book? Yeah, if you understand, calculus is it's rigorous, but the thing is, it retrains how you see the world. Not well. The thing is, if Tragedy and Hope was actually not, it's dense, but if Tragedy and Hope made a lot of sense to me. Maybe I'm weird. Well, yep, it's yep. That's a discipline. Most black folks don't have that kind of discipline. Most black kids in high school only study 3 hours 3 hours a day at best. So when you actually go from studying 3 hours a day to college where you have to study 5 or 6 hours a day, that's a leap that most black folks can't make, and that's how come you have a lot of black folks that drop out because they don't have that internal discipline that's been developed over time. There's a lot of men that can defeat me in debate, but the thing is, those men aren't here. There's a lot of masters that can defeat me in debate, but those guys are paid. Those guys won't give you the truth. And the difference between me and them is that I am not paid. And so I have no reason to lie to you. They have a reason to lie to you because they have to protect their paycheck. I don't have to protect my paycheck. Minister Jap, I doubt that. I doubt that seriously. Now, if Jap want to argue, debate the street, now Jap, you know, as far as the street is concerned, hell, I've been on the street. Okay, and hey, my brother-in-law, street nigga. Okay, we was just talking. So, uh, I've been out there on the street. Now, have I done it as a career? No, but me and Jap will probably agree way more than we disagree. Just like Angry Man's a street nigga. Me and Angry Man agree way more than we disagree. Why? Because um, where because I'm not a street nigga, but a lot of my friends are. A lot of my friends are. But and some shit that they do, I had to defer to their knowledge because I didn't actually have hands on a lot of shit. I was around it, but I have hands on with a lot of shit. So I have to defer to their knowledge. Well, well, the thing is, he doesn't think so. But the thing is, he's saying, "What have they done for us?" It's not what have they done for us. Same reason China goes to Africa. It's not what Africans have done for China. Where are the opportunities? You're thinking backwards. You're thinking like we owe them something. No, you're not going there because you owe them something. You're going there because there's an opportunity there. You're investing in Africa. You're not trying to get back something. So regardless of what went on in the past, where's the opportunity? And who's going to give you the opportunity? It ain't going to be Europe. It ain't going to be Latin America. Where's your opportunity at? It's in Africa. Yeah. That's like me and Kevin have never argued about anything because um, Kevin understood me the first time he heard me. Kevin understood me the first time he heard me. But as far as Africa is concerned, um, America should have America should have sent African Americans to help develop Africa back in the 90s, and absolutely by the 2000s when the Chinese started to move in. Because that's the only way they could have the only people that could have combated the move into China, into Africa from with China are African Americans. But for them to do that, they would have to trust the African Americans to come in and invest and still have some of their best interest at heart. But since America has not been too kind to African Americans, they ain't trust them. They could have easily took the black service members and formed an African union, an AFRICOM, into Africa that would have been accepted by the Africans. You're not going to send a whole bunch of white folks as a military force, and the Africans is going to accept them. The thing is, they didn't trust black military people. That's how come they didn't. But it is what it is. That's water on the bridge. That's too late. It's money. The thing is, money to be made. There's trade to be made. In other words, why should you allow other people to take the opportunities to do business in Africa and you're not? Well, it's not even cheap land. The thing is, that's in other words, wage, labor, low wage labor. You know, for at least for a while. They have a need for technology. They have mineral and resources. They have a whole lot of things that you need to do trade with that you can actually do. Same way Nike went to to Asia to build their billion-dollar corporation on cheap labor and materials. Okay, how come you can't be a billionaire? So you're worried about, oh well, African sold your great grandfather in slavery. Okay, that should happen. Okay, this is a different day. You got to move on. What you gonna do about your grandkids and your great grandkids? Are you gonna build a legacy for them? How do you do that, and where is it at? Yeah, well, the thing is, yeah, we don't develop the discipline. A lot of things we actually, because a lot of black folks actually trust the educational system and the white educational system. The white educational system is really not for you, for black people, number one. And a lot of black folks have uh, left their kids in the care of the educational system and not tried to develop them toward a goal. If you take charge of your kids' education system, say, and have a goal for them to be an engineer or be a whatever, right? If you teach them nothing but English and math to the best of your ability, when they get to college, they can kick ass on any subject because the only thing is that limits people in college is what the ability to read and write and what do math. If you can already do calculus by the time you hit college, then there are no barriers. There are no barriers. You can read and write and you can do math to the greatest extent. There are no barriers in college. College is actually very easy. And you can actually train your kid to do calculus by the time that kid is in um, by the time the kid is 12. If you actually painstakingly go through the process, you can actually get them to start doing calculus by the time they're 12. So by the time they're 13, 14, maybe 15, they're ready to go to college, and college is not a barrier because they have the basics. Rush Limbaugh is actually the person that was the started the conservative talk, and then KFI in Los Angeles actually recruited a lot of people around it. They needed a black one, and they recruited Larry Elder to KFI to be the black conservative in Los Angeles. I don't think they're too lazy. They're I think black parents have been culturalized probably wrong, and because they've been brainwashed by the same school system that most people suffer under. In calculus, if you actually look at it and you break down the elements, if you actually take a calculus book and break it down by elements, if you take a kid and basically here's the formula that I was gonna that it's it's easy to devise, it's probably easy to implement, but the thing is that if you can get black women out of the fucking way of the kid, then you can actually do it. The biggest impediment I see to teaching a kid is like my grandson is black women because they feel sorry for the kid. Okay, if you get good as far as mathematics is concerned, if you just start out by have them memorizing their mathematical facts. Most people want to teach it, and most people want to do drills. Thing is, break out those cards and have them memorize it because you have to know your addition and subtraction and multiplication facts cold. I mean, cold to the point is where you can actually do flashcards and they go through them like that. In other words, if you take a sheet of mathematical facts is like maybe 25 or 50, you should be able to do it in a minute. If they can do that, then you move them up to the next step. But the thing is, they have to know their addition and subtraction cold. I mean, absolutely positively cold. All that word problems, all the other bullshit, you throw that out. You have them masters in mathematical facts, addition and subtraction. Because I've tutored kids that were like 13 years, 12, 13 years old, did not know their mathematical facts, could not add and subtract quickly enough. They had to figure it out. They had to put it on sheet and paper instead of you saying what's 6 + 5, and they have to figure it out. They have to think about it instead of saying 11. It should be cold. Once you do that, then you progress. It's not a calculation. Exactly. Those are mathematical. You start with the bare minimum facts, memorize those, and then you work and go into the calculations, you know. Then you can teach 2-digit addition, 3-digit addition, whatever. Then it becomes algorithm, because everything else after the facts are algorithms. Okay, long division is an algorithm. Okay, how do you figure out a long division problem? But the thing is, you have to have multiplication, addition, and all this stuff down cold. If you got that down cold, you add the algorithm. You teach the algorithm because everything else is already done. You don't have to reteach everything else. Okay, and then you add on variables because they have everything else down cold. You teach them. You actually teach them the actual uh, um, um, theories and definitions and stuff like that. Yes, teach them the formulas. Memorize the formulas. I would say memorize the formulas, and then you plug in the variables. But those things that have to be memorized should be memorized down cold to where you can actually write them down uh, uh, by memory. Okay, then you assemble the tools. Then you actually work on the algorithm, which are the definitions and the techniques. Life is an equation. Yep, it's all math. Down to basically it's the whole universe is action and reaction from one mathematical equation. The whole universe is developed by an imbalance, and then and everything else is a derivative. The whole universe is a derivative of one equation. That's what it's built on. And those derivatives start to interact with each other, they get more and more complex. But at the bottom line, the whole universe is a derivative of one equation. It is. It is. It can be complex. Once you get it down to a formula, then you can put your feelings into it. How do you feel about it? How do you adjust it? How do you adjust this, that, or the other? But the thing is, that's what you have to think about. Any black conservatives in the house, by any chance? There's no such thing as new math. Um, Basically, if you actually look at Common Core, it's a way of teaching. They're trying to Common Core is trying to teach algorithms. Like I have to like my grandson's doing finger math. I'm trying to kill the finger math. All right. Okay, they already got him. Okay. I said I was gonna have to get him. Um, the thing is that for people that have already been on and they're trying to, a lot of them are not trying to debate you. What they want is attention. And they want to give me what they want to debate on. They want to debate me, but they want to give me what they want to debate on. And so I just simply said to him, produce something, produce something outside, especially outside of your wheelhouse, and show me that you're. I have no idea. They come up with all kinds of stuff. Like one of the things they always come up with is why is that black folks should lead the Democratic Party. And I say, okay, black folks should lead the Democratic Party. I say, why? I say, well, because the Democrats ain't done nothing. Okay, so what party should black folks join? They said the Republican Party. I say, so what are the Republicans actually offering for black folks to actually switch over to be Republican? What are they offering? What are they standing for black folks to switch? Well, it's because the Democrats ain't done nothing. That's not a reason for people to switch. Oh, one of the conservatives debunked himself in his own video today. Okay, which, which who was the conservative that debunked himself? Conservatives debunk themselves all the time. I think I think the reason that he's there is because what they have what the basically the Republicans have made a mess of their party, and Donald Trump has made a mess of their party. Oh, I don't know why would Minister Jap debate me on about Africa. Minister Jap doesn't know enough about it to really debate me about Africa. And I like Jap. Why would I debate him? I don't know why they're in love with Thomas Sowell. Okay, they um because he reaffirms what they've been taught about black folks. They well, Thomas Sowell hates welfare. Thomas Sowell hates the government, stuff like that. So they think. So in other words, he gives them an enemy. Okay, welfare is the problem. Welfare is this, that, and the other, and welfare is a problem, but it's not the problem. Um, you should vote policy and not should vote policy and not a party. That's what you should vote. A party, not a party, but a policy, a platform, and not a party. Doesn't matter whether you're registered or not. So, in other words, if you have an agenda and you have a policy that you want to an action you actually want to do, that's where you should be. I have been an independent since 1992, so I'm not either a Republican or a Democrat. I didn't want to vote for. I was a Democrat. I didn't want to vote for Bill Clinton. I didn't want to vote for George Bush, so I voted for. I think it was. I voted for the Green Party, which is a protest vote. As far as libertarians, I would have voted for Ron Paul if he had run independent. Ron Paul and Dennis Kucinich should have teamed up together because like 95% of their platform was exactly the same. Ron Paul and Dennis Kucinich should have left the Democratic and Republican parties and ran on their own ticket. They did not. I would have voted for Ron Paul. Commit to no one. Exactly, Kevin. You commit to a policy. You commit to an agenda. I don't know who Diamond and Silk are. What would I tell my 20-year-old self? I would, if I could go back and tell my 20-year-old self something, I would actually I would actually hand them tragedy and hope and said, the world, uh, the world that you see in front of your eyes is not real. Go deeper. Tell my 20-year-old self, get your ass into the Air Force Academy and stay there and learn. Be the spook that sat by the door. That's what I told my 20-year-old self. Uh, I have to research SB 10 because I haven't really done domestic politics in a minute. So it was Ralph Nader. Thank you. Ron Paul knew that he was not gonna. Ron, Ross Perot was not the guy I would have voted for in 1992. Ron Paul is a nice guy, but Ron Paul, at the end of the day, knew that he would not survive outside the Republican Party. In fact, Craig Hewlett said if he's going to run and becomes president, he should invest in Kevlar. Okay, black female Boston City Councilor tonight upset a 10-term incumbent in a Democratic congressional primary in Massachusetts. I don't know anything behind it, but um, a lot of folks are actually going to get pushed out because they're not effective. And since the money is tight and Um, they have to find people that actually are effective, and not effective people are gonna get pushed out. Yeah, so it doesn't matter whether you're Republican or Democrat. If you're not effective, you ain't got any ideas that's going to help, you're going to get pushed out. And I agree with that. Andrew Gilliam. I know enough about him to know that he's a Bernie Sanders supporter, and in this environment, you're going to need socialists. You really are, because you're going to get more socialism. So you need people that actually know how to handle it, because the old guard doesn't know how to handle a socialist environment. Environment is going to favor socialism, because automation is going to push people to the margins. Um, how do you actually fight back against, not fight back against it, but actually adapt to it? You can't do it through capitalism. Capitalism will actually get you more people out of work and more people on the street. Socialism is the only thing that actually will do it. ABL's been on, but ABL is it buck dances a lot. ABL buck dances a lot. ABL has to go look up stuff. So be debating AB, it had to be debating ABL on what? ABL, you have to do more teaching. And ABL doesn't take teaching. He's gonna stick, if he's wrong, he's gonna die on that hill. So there's no sense in actually debating ABL. And then he's gonna try to deflect. I don't have time for that. I'm not gonna waste any more time and hours on that, because I have nothing to prove to ABL. ABL needs to go do what he does. If he's in there to make money. So, God bless him. Venezuela is being attacked, much like it has nothing to do with socialism. Venezuela is being attacked much like what Uganda was, and a couple of African countries. It has more to do with your currency being attacked. Um, Venezuela supplies the United States with 15% of their oil. They have one of the biggest oil reserves in the world. America wants to hold on to it, so they're going to be financially attacked. I hope ABL blows up and makes his money. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that. If that's there's there's plenty of there's plenty of coon money out there. So I had no problem with a dude trying to make his paper. I'm telling you, if you're gonna do it right. If you're gonna be out there cooning, don't coon for free. ABL is not gonna debate. ABL is gonna buck dance. So I don't have time for that. Last time he was on, he buck danced. You give him a fact, he doesn't know it, and then he comes up with some other bullshit. So ABL can't accept the fact as a fact. Oh, I'd rather debate Larry Elder than Jesse Lee Peterson. I can't debate Jesse Lee Peterson, man. uh, Jesse Lee Peterson is the poor Larry Elder. In fact, Jesse Lee Peterson actually started Bond back right after Larry Elder started. ABL got jumped. Who jumped on ABL? Because I'm more about opening people's minds than debating. Jesse Lee Peter's been around for a while, man. He's gotten better. Let's put it that way. He's gotten better, because when he first started, man, he wasn't. You think he's not well spoken now? He's worse. He was worse back, 30 years ago. No, he's not. Uh, Jesse Lee is kind of hard to understand. You know, I understand him, but then sometimes I feel sorry for him, because he can get confused. And once he gets confused and he starts scratching his head, then you know you got him. They could they can support Trump all they wants, but the thing is, you need to be honest about who Trump is. Um, Tommy Sotomayor is he's an entertainer. Debate TD Jakes about what? Do I think black folks are a permanent underclass? Depends. It depends on it depends on how the United States is actually going to work out its race problem. If it's to the point where they're actually going to cause people to blend, then no. And I think that's the only way for white folks to actually survive in power, to actually get a gray mass. So I think black folks are going to be part of the gray mass. I don't think there will be a black community. So I don't think there'll be an underclass. They won't exist. We've been a we've been a permanent underclass for 200 years. What's going to change? They don't bother me because ABL and folks like that don't bother me because I understand them. They're there to make money, so I can't take them seriously. The reason that they're going to be stand your ground revisions is because black folks will start tooling up, and then you're going to have gunfights in the street, and that's not what they want. Like that dude that shot dude in the chest. That means black folks they have to walk around armed, and Florida cops do not want to regulate black folks being armed. They're afraid of black folks being armed. The thing is, if you make it legal, then black folks can be armed, and you're gonna have some white folks that get shot. Okay, they don't want that. I haven't seen TBA's race war, so I can't comment on. I've seen portions of it. Do I think there's going to be a race war? I doubt a real race war is not going to be pretty. It's not. We're not in a race war. A real race war is something you don't want to see, not by black folks. And if um, there's a race war that will actually stretch well beyond black and white. Uh, I think they're trying to force. I don't think there's going to be a divide. I think there's going to be a blending, which is the divide is actually created by white folks, which to help them. Now it's not helping them anymore. So they've been trying to reverse the divide for the last 80 years. Um, if you have to go to tragedy and hope and actually divide them for yourself. If I'm actually going to do the actually put the equations out, I'm actually probably going to do that more on Patreon. Right, Q. You don't want to debate me, Q, because you're too busy right now. You got other problems, Q. What are my thoughts about Huey Newton? Huey P. Newton. At the time, they were correct. I think they actually went off the rails, which is what happens with most black black organizations under stress. They put them on a lot of stress and then infiltrated them and it actually divided them. So Huey P. Newton, he sometimes the egos with black egos can actually break things up. But for their time, they were revolutionary, and they actually a lot of stuff that the Black Panthers actually implemented actually got put into actually adopted by the federal government. So they were helping like Head Start and breakfast programs. A lot of that stuff was actually adopted by the federal government and state governments to actually do. Yeah, University of Phoenix, right? Okay. Actually adopted by the federal government. Actually subvert what the Black Panthers are actually doing. So in some ways, they helped. Yeah, the social theories were on point. Um, egomaniac. A lot of the theories were actually developed. They had been developed before, and they were actually posted. But the thing is, they were actually a lot of stuff there. Like I said, the environment actually caused the reaction because you see the need. If you're on the ground and you see what's going to help people, then that's where your social theories actually come from. Because it's gay men. How can gay men go their own way? Gay men have already gone their own way. They don't need to know how. They've already done it. When they instituted the LGBTQ laws, then um, they've already have a avenue to go their own way. Well, they did. The anti-war and the civil rights protests were actually attacked at the same time. Actually attacked not only in legislation by the police, but also by feminism. Actually, creating jobs and that kind of stuff actually came from the Monahan report. Monahan actually talked about that well before the Panthers did. Well, they'd never gotten themselves back together, back to the prominence where they were. When Khalid Muhammad was actually working with them, they started to come back toward prominence after his death. They kind of fell off again. Chris, you got to understand, Chris Hedges is a liberal, but the thing is, he's one of the more decent liberals. But like any liberal, you have to take it with a grain of salt. There's a, f- I'm trying to remember there's a couple guys. There's another guy. I'm trying to think of his name. I think his last name is Simpson. But there's a book called The Splendid Blonde Beast. I think is his major book. He's actually a very good Christopher Simpson, I think his name is. Not a lot of people talk about him, but nope, we have not discussed Tommy Curry's Man. I actually have the book. I haven't read it yet. I like Tommy Curry and Dr. Tiasan. Black people have never rejected gays. They're in your church. They've been in your church. They're in your neighborhoods. They're in your families. Black folks have never rejected gays ever. Just because we might reject their agenda, but we never rejected gays. Like gays have been in the black community as long as black people have been around. Just don't accept their agenda in America. They go to Africa, that's a different story. They'll put a tire around your neck and set it on fire. But as far as America, black folks have never rejected gays. In fact, the white gays used to come down and party in the black areas because black folks are open and accepting of gay lifestyle, as long as it doesn't go too far. The feminist movement is actually funded by the Republican Party. The major feminist tenets, which is Title 10, which is birth control and abortion, and Title 9, which has been used to give females civil rights, for lack of a better term, was actually implemented and funded by Republicans to offset male power in anti-war and uh, anti-discrimination. I've actually said that for many, many years. Yeah, it is what it is. Okay. We might call them a whole bunch of stuff. We call each other a whole bunch of names, but at the end of the day, we don't go down and beat up gay folks. We don't go down and burn down their wherever they hang out. We don't actually go shoot them in the street. We don't do that kind of stuff, man. Because gay marriage is on the road to basically what is called it child marriage, which is where it's headed. Actually the point where it's headed. LGBTQ is always just on the road to actually getting rid of all the having sex with child laws that we have. Homo thugs is just an extension of prison culture. Actually, the spreading of disease is actually done by um, allowing females to actually have more than one partner. That's what gays don't spread disease; females do. When you let when you let when females get too loose, all of a sudden you have a big explosion in STDs because females hold the reins on sex. If you're going to have a restrictive society on sex, it's the females that are restrictive. If you're going to have a loose society on sex, the females are actually let loose. Um, and everybody knows that. Females are the gatekeepers of sexuality. Pedophilia is going to be on the rise. That's the next. Gays don't. The biggest problem for disease spreading, disease vector is in the female, not the male. Go do your homework. If it enters the female population, the disease will spread a lot faster. Gays actually make less, but gays actually make up less than 5% of the population. And most straight guys aren't out banging gay guys. Okay, they're banging females. So if there's going to be a vector to actually spread STDs, is going to be with the female. We ain't gonna talk about HIV because there's so much debate about HIV. The problem is not even really HIV; it's actually um, syphilis and gonorrhea and other kind of stuff. In fact, there's they're saying that even some kind of what is it? Flesh-eating bacteria actually be spread. But the diseases that are actually resistant to penicillin and resistant to antibiotics is the problem that they're having right now. Yeah, HIV was never a killer. Do your homework. It's never that big of a killer. Do your homework. The biggest killer was the drugs that they put the HIV people on. HPV, yeah, that's another one. But HPV is more prevalent as far as women is concerned. Actually makes them infertile. But HPV is not well understood. Um, it's a small population, and even back then, because I remember when UCLA actually came up with the AIDS diagnosis, the AIDS theory, right? and they weren't afraid of it being in the gay sector. They were afraid of it spreading out into the females because they thought that it would be, because if it were actually really, really prevalent, it would actually see it in prostitutes more than anybody else. But prostitutes didn't fall over, collapse over, dead in great numbers. Yeah, a lot of superbugs. Those are the really that's the bad stuff that nobody talks about. HIV is actually a series of things. Um, there there isn't a cure because um, it's a complex, and everybody nobody can actually agree what HIV actually is, even to this day. Yeah, there is one. Yeah, I remember seeing that. Oh, that we have a biologist right here in the circle. What I'm saying is that's what spreads. HIV is really not that big a deal. Syphilis is probably, syphilis that gets out of control is probably more devastating. If you get a syphilis that can't be dealt with, then you're gonna have a bigger issue than HIV. Yeah, well, they say there's a lot of rumor and lies about HIV that's been out there for the last 40 years, like almost 40 years. And in fact, my partner, man, he's been debunking that stuff for the last 30 years. So I don't even want to get started about it because a lot of that stuff, a lot of what's out there about HIV is actually bullshit. Because if it was as bad as they predicted it to be, half of us would be dead already. Well, HIV was a dubious thing in the beginning. It's not gonna eat through a condom. But thing is, once you catch it and it develops, if you want something that actually gonna keep people from fucking, that if it, a flesh eating STD will actually do it. That shit is ugly. No, it's man made in a sense that it was in a sense that the theory that they came up with, the retrovirus is always there. Now, saying that the retrovirus actually causes symptoms is a different story. If you go back and read read about Peter Duesberg, who is an expert, says it actually does nothing. Everybody I know that died of HIV died because they were on the medications. Magic Johnson is still alive. He had HIV diagnosed in what, 1991? Is he still around? I've heard all that stuff. Yes, me and Prince, I've heard all that stuff. Actually, they weren't cultivating penicillin. They're actually trying to cultivate a the theory is they're trying to cultivate an anti-cancer drug through a retrovirus. That's the theory, but there's many, many theories. Flesh eating is new. I've seen it. I don't know how. Easy E was on the medication. You get on the medication, you got 6 months. Magic is not a special case. The biggest bioweapon that they have, they don't want to release it, which is the bird flu. Bird flu killed 100 million people in a matter of a year and a half, which is more deadly. Doesn't matter where they have who has money. AZT is what kills. My uncle died of AZT. There's damn near 40 years of research. Go dig through it. You don't have to believe me. If the original 1918 bird flu actually got loose and actually put it out there, um, you can't. There's no cure for it. Actually it had to burn itself out. The original bird flu would actually kill 40% of the population once it spread. Bubonic plague has nothing on the bird flu. Ebola has nothing on the bird flu. Why would I debate Yvette Carnell? Say what? Three drastic changes you stated about the video about baby mamas. That's not gonna happen because uh, dudes love pussy too much. It's not gonna happen. In fact, they said so right after the video. And then all dudes said, "Yeah, it's a good idea, but it's not gonna happen." Yeah, they actually dug it up. Actually, the CDC actually dug it up back in Jesus, what was that? 1990 something, 1997, 1998. Actually dug it back up and um, actually revitalized the bird flu and actually tried variants of it in Asia. So they scared the shit out of the Asian. You say bird flu to the Asian man, it scares the shit out of them. Anyway, what time is it? Get about 15 more minutes. Any conservatives in the house? Last call. Um, Measles, mumps, and rubella is actually the import of people from the third world where the disease is still alive. So you get people coming from places that are not as sanitary as the or not as a sterile environment as the United States coming in from the third world. They're actually going to bring what with them? Same thing with invasive species like uh, boas and anacondas and other kind of insects. They bring it with you, or Africanized bees. You import it, guess what's going to happen? It's going to spread. Well, cancer might be on the rise because you have radiation coming from Fukushima. No, it wasn't. Actually, what was actually given to veterans was experimental drugs to actually keep them from getting sick when they were using the what they call depleted uranium. They got those, and basically with the depleted uranium and plus the shots that they gave them actually causes a lot of your veterans disease. I forget the nurse's name that actually talked about it way back in the 2000s. Can't remember her name. Um, Basically, I will want to do more politics, but sometimes I have to go back to the basics, which is more Black community oriented about male and female relationships and that kind of stuff. So I want to get back more into politics, more as a framework, not necessarily to debate about it, but actually inform people, give people other things to think about. Just like the opium epidemic, right? we call the epidemic. I said it's going to be hard to stop because it's too cheap, and so far I've been right. Yeah. Well, it took long time to actually kill them, but yeah, it is devastating. It actually paid a lot of vets with Agent Orange. A lot of them died from that stuff. A lot of them got horrible cancers from that kind of stuff. A lot of them have to lose their kidneys because of Agent Orange. Uh, First you have to change black people's minds. Get them unbrainwashed, and then you can actually talk to them about economics and that kind of stuff. The thing is, you got to get them pissed off. Get them pissed off, then they actually do some research. Once they do some research, then they actually start growing. Even Cynthia G has changed her. Um, I'm doing good, Art. Even Cynthia G has changed her profile because I challenged her on actually on the facts and actually the literature. She had to read the literature. Once you start reading the literature, your mind has to change. Black conservatives don't know. Black conservatives have no idea what they're doing, in my opinion. They have no idea what they're doing. They don't. When I ask them why are they conservative, what are their tenets, they can't tell me. If they're you have to go back and figure out what a real conservative is and what does it stand for. We live in a liberal country. It's not a conservative country. It's a liberal country. Are you conservative? Are you conservative as old liberal ideas? So if you're a old-fashioned liberal or a neoliberal, and most conservatives are neoliberals, and a lot of their ideas contradict. And they can't even express what the ideology actually is. Oh, he's going red pill. Well, um, all they did was present the facts. Well, he brought the book out, actually analyzed the book for him. Everybody's not an analyst. I found that out early. Yeah, but the thing is, she has to debate the facts. The only way to debate the facts is actually read them. If you read enough of it, you will actually do what start changing your mind. Um, you have to understand what the world actually is, because America's part of it, and what America's agenda actually is. And this is the stuff they don't. I tell you the stuff that they don't tell you. I don't argue about that stuff because it's low priority. It starts with how do you unbrainwash people, Kwame? How do you unbrainwash them? The problem is not the facts on the ground. The problem is how do you change people's minds? How do you unbrainwash people? Five types of conservatives, really. What is a conservative, Kavina man? Well, you have to know what you're talking about if you're going to. Larry Elder is actually very smart. He's not stupid. He's been doing it for 30 years. So if you go up against him, he's heard every argument. He's heard every argument. So you go up against him, he's heard every argument. So if you're not, so what is a conservative? The breakdown of the black family is part. A breakdown of the black family is an effect. It is not the cause. Why is the white family breaking down? If you guys can explain to me what a conservative is, a black conservative actually is, I'll actually drop the link and stay on for a little while longer. Because I know a guy, one of my circle mates, it says he's a conservative, but I keep asking him, what is a conservative? He can't explain it. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. A lot of your military soldiers are not necessarily conservatives. I would say military people are probably closer to it because they understand how the world works. They're probably closer to a conservative. I think most military people tend to go toward the authoritarian sphere because as a military, that's the easiest way to get things done is through an authoritarian where you make people do things. Um, so if they're anti-abortion and conservatives actually in law, how come they haven't killed it? If they're pro-family, how come they don't support? How come they support things like support things like what is it? No fault divorce. Actually, most conservatives believe in free trade and free market, which is liberal. A real conservative is actually an authoritarian or a royalist or something like that. That's actually a real conservative. And most conservatives that are in America don't believe in that. They believe in a libertarian or a liberal view of government. Small government is actually a liberal idea. It's not a conservative idea. Ex-military is actually more closer to what? Authoritarianism. Anti. Most people say they're most guys are military say they're anti-socialist until they don't get their military pension or they don't get their GI Bill or they don't get whatever is promised to them by that contract. Those are socialist tenets. Ask a GI, is he willing to give up his pension or his GI Bill? See what he says. Smaller government is what is a larger government, right? Was an authoritarian regime is actually a larger government, right? Where the king or the chief or whatever actually dictates what you do, right? Or your lords actually dictate what you do, right? When you put the idea of government being in the hands of the common folks is a liberal idea. Before you were a serf, you were a subject. You actually did what the king told you to do. Big government, so the big government is actually in the hands of a very, very small amount of people, right? Government actually dictated everything you do. When you actually take control of what you do as a free person, that's a liberal idea. Consider one a low tax police state. In other words, which is contrary to what uh, a real conservative would actually want. That's a liberal idea. The uh, the 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 gig economy and all that kind of stuff is putting um, uh, the means of production in the hands of the everyday worker. So he doesn't work for a corporation or an employer. That is a socialist idea. That is Marxism, putting the means of production in the hands of the worker. It's a liberal idea. The Chinese are conservative. That's authoritarian. That's the Koreans are conservative. Japanese are conservative. You are liberal. Socialism is not. Socialism is anti what? Putting the means of production, putting the means of government in the hands of the individual is socialism. It's anti. It's anti-capitalist or extreme capitalist, and it's anti what? Authoritarian, which is socialism. But it's like any idea, it doesn't. Its tenets don't get applied the way it's supposed to. And well, conservatives don't want redistribution, wealth redistribution. But what happens to your society when you don't? Progressive socialists. That's why most of the liberalism was actually given up after World War I when it didn't work. The tenets are still there. Fascism is very conservative. Corporate control of the state. That is capitalism in its extreme. Corporate control of the state. Uh, the corporation has to control the state. That's capitalism in an extreme. Russia file. Um, a lot of your original socialists were what? Atheists. A lot of your conservatives are what? Russophile, also atheists, are they not? A lot of your hardcore conservatives are what? Atheists, aren't they? Has religion has nothing to do with one way or the other. In fact, liberalism, period, was what? Uh, no government and no God, right? The original capitalist, right? A lot of your original founding fathers of capitalism were what? Atheist. Ask you a lot of your conservative thought leaders. In fact, a lot of your real conservatives want to kill the black church, believe it or not. So that's where the dichotomy comes in. All conservatives don't like the black church. In fact, most of them don't. And your black church does a lot of liberal shit, does it not? Helping the poor, redistribution of wealth, right? Separation of church and state is because you had the Church of England and the Catholic Church had dominated Europe for a very long time. Atheists and deists, yeah, well, The thing is, what I want is people to actually understand what they actually believe in, instead of just. I think a lot of black conservatives are like black Christians. They believe in something without understanding it. Anyway, thoughts on O'Shea Duke Jackson? I haven't listened to O'Shea in quite a while. I mean, he's doing his thing. All right. Um, is he a conservative? Partially. So come I don't get mixed up in a liberal or conservative, because at any one time, depending on the stance I take, I could actually be considered one way or the other. Well, number one, they weren't supposed to turn Aretha Franklin's funeral into a political platform. That is not the time to speak out about politics. If at somebody's funeral, in my opinion, it wasn't supposed to be a political platform. Uh, yeah. Well, if you're gonna be conservative, you should be conservative all the way. Germany's conservative. Germany says basically CEO can't make more than 12 times its lowest paid worker, because you need a cohesive society. That's conservative. And conservatism says German conservatism says you have to if you want goods and services out of the state, you got to pay for it. Taxes are the way that you pay for it. If you want to give up your roads and your toilets and your infrastructure, don't pay your taxes. Do it yourself. Nobody can ever tell me. Nobody ever explained how the libertarian uh, um, ideology actually works in real time, because it never has. Okay, it doesn't work that way. Capitalism ideology doesn't work by itself. It had to be amended and actually fixed by socialism. Those two things actually work together. One cannot survive without the other. That's like Wolf calls socialism capitalism shadow. Okay, you can't have one without the other. If there's light on capitalism, it has to have a shadow. Socialism they're bound at the hip, which most people don't understand. Well, the thing is, thing is, a corporation doesn't work without a society. You don't have a society actually be a society that actually is actually functional. You don't have a corporation, because no, Amazon cannot work without electricity, roads, and customers. Can't. That's infrastructure. Who builds the infrastructure? The society actually builds the infrastructure for Amazon to exist in. Same thing with Apple, same thing with Microsoft, same thing with any ABC Corporation, Walmart. Without the ports, roads, and electricity and infrastructure that's built by the society, Walmart can't exist. They are children of the society, not independent of it. The balance of socialism, capitalism depends on your environment. Thomas Sowell is a smart dude, but the thing is, Thomas Sowell knows when to shut the fuck up and not give the whole truth, which I that's why I don't like Thomas Sowell. I think black leaders need to be chosen by black people and not by the dominant society. Elected people are not leaders; they are servants. They are representatives. Your elected officials are representative. That's like you can recall them when they don't actually represent you. They're not there to lead you. They're there to speak for you. A lot of people get that mixed up. They are just like a teacher is paid to do what teach your children. They're actually there to do a job, not lead your children. They're actually there to teach your children. There, the I think that the Democrats will actually take the House, not the Senate, but the House, because Donald Trump has actually screwed up things so badly. You're going to have a blue wave in the uh, in the House, not the Senate. That's how come they haven't tried to impeach Donald Trump. As far as the Democrats are concerned, they want him to be there because he's screwing up enough. He's actually doing the work for him. Black Lives Matter is AstroTurf. It's actually a Soros paid for organization, which I've said that many, many times. Nobody should trust Al Sharpton, in my opinion. He's paid for, as is Jesse Jackson. But it is what it is. If you want to believe him, fine. Follow policy, not people. Well, they are paid to program your children. Do you agree with the programmer or not? Donald Trump will not be reelected. Donald Trump may not make it out of his first term. So we'll have to see. I don't know. We have to see how high the interest rates actually go up in 2019. Interest rates cannot be predicted right now. BLM is there to project black female political power, nothing more. Because you're getting lost in politics instead of looking at the chessboard. Trump is going to shoot himself in the foot. I don't think can be reelected. They're probably sorry that the Republicans don't even like him. So him being reelected is probably very, very slim. But we have to wait till at least was it 2019? You'll know by next year. Now, of course, it's your opinion. I gave mine. Probably not. I don't know what Trump is. Okay. Trump got lucky because nobody wanted Hillary. So it's luck. And he's actually demonstrating why he should have been elected in the first place, in my opinion. But that's just me. Anyway, I'm going to jump. There's no black conservatives to argue with, so I'm going to jump. I hope Hillary will never win anything, okay? She's done. Hillary is done. You can put a fork in her. She's done. Transhumanism is actually next after transgenderism. Okay, that's what you really need to watch out for. This other stuff is minor. The real big effect on human population that's coming is transhumanism, where you merge with your technology. That's next. What are you going to do with that? Um, they might run Elizabeth Warren. Um, Evidently she doesn't have the goods, evidently, but we'll see. I would say more like either the Borg or I always say if you looked at Fringe and look at the observers, that's closer to what happened to Inhuman 2.0. If you go to Fringe and look up the observers, that's probably what human beings will look like. They probably won't be white; they'll be whatever color, but that's the general principle. Why do you hate Bernie? Okay, come in, man. Bring your ass on. Since you'll be the stand-in for conservatives. Cyborgs, not really. Not a cyborg, something else. Place your nanobites on pre-order. Okay. So if instead of 7 of 9, what are you going to be, 8 of 10, Charles? A socialist is actually what you need for what's coming. Nobody else can actually handle that shit. Socialist is actually what you need. Oh, what? Oh, what is it? A T1? They could actually do it now, in certain arenas. In fact, Kurzweil actually showed it off, where you actually get nanobites to turn somebody into a super soldier. Yeah, it's the chips are already there. Yeah, they have basically there are nanoprobes, not Borg nanoprobes that are as sophisticated, but they are nanoprobes. They already have them. We'll see. They're pushing the boundaries. Yeah, if I can find it, actually, Kurzweil was actually talking about it. So they're on the drawing board. They actually can use it to actually get rid of cancer. But the thing is, they don't want to release all that stuff yet. What is truth as I know it talking about? He's not coming on. Oh, pedophilia. Okay. Yeah, I don't need a strike on my channel by you talk about pedophilia. We want a new game. Okay. The new game is coming. I don't know if you guys are going to like it or not. Oh, I saw that. Sucking feet. Yeah, I did see that. I don't even get, it's that kind of stuff is wasting my time. I don't need to shock people. I scare people enough as it is. I don't need to shock people. I sh- I shock. Okay, well he's gone. Okay. UBI is a necessary evil because of the greater thing they're getting ready to do, which is I think it's going to be a debt jubilee. The only way you can actually affect a debt jubilee to actually level the reset the capitalist clock is by giving out a UBI. Because if you don't do the UBI with the debt jubilee, then the debt jubilee will not work. The infrastructure will actually collapse. It's a disgrace in this environment. If the environment changes the way I think it will change, UBI will be your last hope. Yeah. Most people that don't like the UBI have never looked into why UBI would actually be uh, universal basic income CRU. We've talked about it many times. Universal basic income. Debt jubilee would cover everything. It would level the playing field. The thing is, the creditors would be wiped out. Has to be done in tantrum. Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's the only way it's going to happen. Um, it's a necessary mechanism. How really? Everybody's well, dude. You're here in the forum. Jump on. Jump on. You haven't done your homework, man. People that say that haven't done their homework. I don't know what to tell you. You haven't done your homework. Well, the thing is, a lot of people will starve if the debt jubilee happens and the UBI doesn't, because your bank's on the verge of collapse as it is. Um, there's going to be winners and losers. So when it happens, nobody knows who's going to benefit. Capitalism will benefit because it gets a fresh start. It'll solve their problem. Nah, you have not really. Not really. It's not universal. You can't have some forms of it. Universal means just what it means, universal. Who are you, Gregory?
Wait. It's Covina, man. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, that's just my government name. Yeah, I guess I'm your stand-in conservative, but I hate conservatives.
Okay, so why are you okay? You hate conservatives. Why?
I don't like the ideology.
Mm-hmm.
I think in retrospect, I have to give some credit to those in the past, like Jack Kemp, who was trying to recruit blacks into the Republican Party to be conservatives or whatever. But at least they give a small try. But I think that a lot of people realize what conservative has evolved into, especially in this 2000. Party's just it's an all white party, a white ideology, and most, if not all, with a few exceptions, conservatives, black conservatives, are mostly all coons.
Mm-hmm.
So, as far as that goes, there's nothing there that appeals to me whatsoever.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I always ask as far as conservatives. They say you want to switch allegiances. Why? They never show anything. There's no platform. There's no reason. There's nothing. Okay. Anti-welfare, anti this, and no, 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 no. What are you going to do to make Black life better instead of just taking things away? Do you have a
Yeah,
plan? They don't have a plan. Well, you need to, Black folks just need to work. Okay. How do you train Black folks to actually work and take advantage of the work environment? They don't have a plan. Well, that's more socialism.
right. Exactly. I think when I first registered to vote
Mm-hmm.
back in the late '80s, I registered as a Republican,
Mm-hmm.
and at the time, I was one of those Christian conservatives, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
coming, raised in the church or whatever. I was a Christian conservative until I found out, what that was really about when it came to politics and religion. And I quickly soured on mixing politics and religion
Mm-hmm.
because I always studied American history,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew what the history of American was and so-called Christians and how they treated Black folks,
Mm-hmm.
and they never reconcile that. Most of the people who were Christian conservatives just completely ignore that. They would quickly spin that into, well, Black folks did this too, kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I quickly soured, and I was an independent probably up until 2018, no, 2016. That's the
Mm-hmm.
first time I registered as a Democrat.
Yeah, well, I'm still not registered as a Democrat, so I haven't been a Democrat since 1992. So that's almost 30 years.
Right. For me, it was still a remnants of my conservative Christian upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
But as I got older, uh, I'm still a Christian. I'm still, you know, tied to the church.
Mm-hmm.
But I registered Democrat just to vote in that primary because here in California you used to be able to just you could be nonpartisan and just vote. Now they just changed it where if you wanted to vote in the primary, you have to pick a
Pick a
party.
party. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of people have said that where you need to say for an election cycle, pick a party and to actually get people out of the affect the primaries, which is a strategy. If that's what you're going to do, I agree with that. If you're going to be Republican for a reason, be a Republican for a reason. A lot of people can't give you a reason why you want to be Republican. If you want to keep people out that are not they're not how can I say conducive to your platform, conducive to your policies, I agree with that. That's a strategy. But most conservatives I actually talk to don't say that. Give us a reason why. If it says to actually affect the Republican Party by keeping certain people out, I'm all for that. Then I'll say yes, by all means, go be Republican. But they don't say that. They look
Yep.
at the Democrats. It has nothing to do with that. What are you trying to do? I'm pragmatic. What are you trying to do? Why are you switching parties? What are you trying to vote for? What are you trying to set up? If you give me that reason, I can say, okay, I can co-sign with that. But they never say that, and their ideology doesn't really add up.
Right.
Yeah. Like
Like
Chris, go
go
ahead.
ahead. Oh, I was gonna say even like if the strategy was really like, oh, we're gonna make the parties compete for our vote. Like
Mm-hmm.
if that was really a strategy, that would be great.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but they never have like the Republicans adapt to whatever Black people care about.
Mm-hmm.
They'll just say like they'll throw something out there like, oh, immigration, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'll say like, oh, Hispanic immigration is hurting Black people. Therefore, if we join the Republicans and become anti-immigrant, then therefore that's something doing for Black people.
Yeah. When Republicans are not anti-immigrant because Ronald Reagan brought a lot of the immigrants in to break up the unions.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
So it's not a Democrat. It's not a Democrat or a Republican thing. So party doesn't make any difference. It's what are the policies that this particular iteration of the party is actually espousing. If you want to get on board with that, I can agree with that. But the thing is, most people don't do it that way.
Exactly. I think one of the reasons why you probably wanted me to get on, because I expressed the anti-Bernie sentiment, and I would just, I can't ride with Bernie.
Why?
What it seems like is there was two major elections, this last election and then 2000, where those two elections the Republican won the White House without winning the majority of the vote. And the reason in 2000 was Ralph Nader, the socialist of the day of that year of 2000, was on the ballot in the state of New Hampshire, and he got enough votes to where it flipped from who was it, Gore to Bush. It was even despite all that Florida stuff. This Florida stuff would have been irrelevant if the socialists didn't run on the ballot in New Hampshire. That completely ruined, and Bush was able to win the White House with a minority of the vote. You know, go forward to 2016 here, and the exact same thing happened. It's like Bernie has been like, he was like an obscure socialist from Vermont character.
He wasn't obscure. He's actually very famous and popular. So Bernie had been in the Senate for a very long time.
Yeah, but I would say he was a socialist that caucused with the Democrat, and he was on the fringe. Let's say obscure. Let's replace that with fringe. He was on the fringe, and most people just tolerate that from a distance.
Yeah, but Bernie, as I told you, what actually killed Hillary Clinton's vote?
Oh, it was a lot, man. People writing books about that all the time. It was a whole lot of things.
And it was her email scandals actually killed her election.
Right. I think you can, that James Comey, that last week before the election, when James Comey said, they're going to reopen the investigation. Bam. I think that blew it right there. That was last week.
And I told you weeks before, like months before, that Hillary Clinton could not be elected.
Yeah, I remember a lot of people did say that.
I told you exactly why, and everything I told you actually came about because what they say about the deep state and Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, I just look at the numbers. I mean, I know there's a rationale. There are a lot of people, because there's a lot of experts are throwing this, that, and the other. But I just look at the numbers, and the numbers show that when Bernie pushed the Democratic vote right up through the convention. He's trying to champion and trying to get the nomination from Hillary right up to the last moment when the convention finished, and that soured a lot of Bernie, so-called Bernie bots, and the Bernie bots, including Dr. Cornel West, Minister Dr. Cornel West, including him. He jumped right from Bernie to Jill Stein, and there's a lot of people who followed, Cornel West and Anita Turner's of the world, and Susan Sarandon. There was a few other like celebrity people who said, we're going from Bernie to Jill Stein, and we're going to push Jill Stein. The Russians push Jill Stein. Everybody.
Because they hated Hillary Clinton. She was
exactly. Yeah.
She was unelectable. Okay, for the vast majority on both sides. Your military didn't like her. Your deep state agents didn't like her because of what happened with Christopher, whatever his name, in Libya. Okay, they had never forgave her for that. So that's like you've never seen that kind of two email scandals in one election cycle. Never, ever. Why all of a sudden is she the first one? Because they want to make sure she didn't get elected, and she didn't. And I already knew that. I told you exactly why she wasn't going to elect it, and those two things popped up, and that's how come she lost the vote. And the Democratic Party actually knew that she was that she had a problem, but they did not want a socialist in office because they knew Bernie Sanders had a very good chance of defeating Donald Trump.
So let me ask you this: if Bernie Sanders didn't run in the primaries against Hillary Clinton, let's say it was who else ran against? It was like the governor from Maryland, I can't remember his name offhand. But if like it was just them two, and it wasn't a socialist to jump from socialist Bernie Sanders to socialist Jill Stein. If that wasn't there, would she have won?
All those people that like Bernie Sanders would have still went over to the other side because they did not like Hillary Clinton.
But I mean, that's always a possibility. But Jill Stein ran before, and she didn't get that kind of vote. And I think.
But I'm saying is, then once they hitched their wagon to Hillary Clinton, that was going to be a loss because there's way too many people that were anti-Hillary Clinton. She would have lost. Once they tied their wagon to Hillary Clinton, it was a loss. I already knew that.
But here's the thing, like I'm saying, if she won the popular vote, but she lost in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, and the reason why she lost in those states was because of Jill Stein.
The reason Hillary Clinton lost that election is because she had an email scandal dropped on her 2 weeks before the election. That actually caused a scandal 2 weeks before the election. That's why she lost.
Right. No, yeah, I think that was probably the kill switch, but it was enough. The vote was enough to switch from whomever, from Hillary Clinton to Jill Stein, because Jill Stein was on the ballot, and she was on, and that message that she had was only popular because Bernie Sanders pushed that socialist message during the primary.
Jill Stein probably helped Hillary Clinton more than she hurt her because Jill Stein took votes away from Donald Trump. It works both ways. It doesn't work one way. It works both ways.
Well, I don't know. That's a speculation. I'm just looking at that.
So what are you doing?
I'm going by the election results.
You go by the election results. You're speculating. How do you know How do you know who those people would have voted for? Absence of Jill Stein.
Because the whole post convention was the Bernie bots saying, including Cornel West. That's what I'm using. Cornel West, the Nina Turners of the world, the Susan Sarandons, and there was others who were specifically saying we're going from Bernie to Jill Stein. It
doesn't. They were going. Those kids were going to leave. Going to change their vote anyway. The reason they did not like Hillary Clinton from the beginning.
Right. A lot of those people didn't like Obama either. Cornel West hates Obama. So it's like it's always been those people that always been like the far left, the fringe, who hate Obama, they hate Democrats.
Cornel
less than 1%.
Cornel West actually liked Obama before he didn't get his seat at the table. I saw that. He liked Obama before he didn't get a seat at the table.
Right, but
when he didn't get a seat at the table, all of a sudden he didn't like Obama.
Right, but when you agree, there's always been that fringe of, or that percentage of fringe leftists. Here, the KPFK. We're in LA, so you got the KPFK kind of people. They're always they never liked Democrats anyway. They've always been like the socialist measures. They always been pushing, the quote unquote Bernie Sanders from the fringe. And most elections is totally irrelevant. It was only two elections where that became relevant, which was, like I said, Ralph Nader in 2000, and then just past election.
It depends on the candidate. Depends on the candidate. Like a lot of your KPF guys actually like what's his name, Ron Paul. They actually like Ron Paul. Ralph Nader kind of likes Ron Paul. And Dennis Kucinich who's a Democrat. If Dennis Kucinich actually could run for president, guess what? KPFK and KPFA would be behind. Dennis Kucinich. Depends on the candidate.
Right. No, I agree. But I'm saying, but they've always been there. Right. and it just said like when Obama ran, Jill Stein and whoever, they were still on the ballot, but it was just so fringe at the time that it didn't make a difference. He just won overwhelmingly. I think, maybe because the baggage that Hillary Clinton came with, it gave excuse for people who are on the fringe or the people that join the fringe.
Whose husband killed the Glass-Steagall Act?
I guess you're going to say Hillary Clinton's.
Bill Clinton killed the Glass-Steagall Act, okay? And now you're in a banking crisis because of Glass-Steagall Act. Are the powers that be going to want Hillary Clinton in office?
I couldn't tell you. I don't try to read their minds. So I'm gonna agree with you. I'll let you handle that. I don't try to read the powerful people's minds. I just try to go with like I usually look at the polls and that kind of stuff.
Padawan, that's why you fail.
Fail in what?
That's why you fail. That's why you fail predicting.
I didn't predict any. I didn't make a prediction. I just read the polls
I don't. The polls are one thing, but the polls will tell you some things. But things, who does the poll, and what do they say? And it's the eyeball test, and what does the environment need? That will tell you who's going to get elected.
Right. I remember at the time. This is because it's not that long ago. I remember at the time, 16-year-old kids that I work with, and I work with kids, and they were saying, "Oh, Donald Trump's going to win," and everybody else was walking around, F Donald Trump, blah blah blah, and there was people saying, "No, Donald Trump is going to win," and then they come back and say, "I told you," and say, anybody can make predictions, and it's like somebody wins a crapshoot every day, somebody wins a lottery, every week, so it's possible anybody could be right on a prediction, but I that's why I don't really make the prediction. I just look at the polls and the margin of errors and blah blah blah, and that'll tell you, the polls were accurate. Hillary Clinton was up by about 1 or 2%. That's how much she won in the popular vote, but the popular vote didn't matter because Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, and there was enough people there to flip from Bernie to Jill Stein.
I said 3 years ago Hillary Clinton was unelectable. Unelectable.
I think, I think in a system where we have an electoral college, it limits certain people. If it was just a straight up vote, then she had to vote to win straight up. But we don't have a straight up election. We have 51 different elections.
You have to understand how the world works. How come Hillary Clinton actually got the Democratic nomination in the first place over Bernie Sanders in the first place? How come he shut up and didn't say another word? That's how the world works. I don't go by polls. I go by how the world works. I used to go by polls. Polls don't mean shit.
Yeah, I leave that up. I don't pretend to know what other people are thinking. Like I said, I just go by the poll results and the polls, and they'll tell you what people are thinking of polls. So the hierarchies are. I leave that to other people. That's just not me. I love to watch talking heads. I'm a news junkie. I'm into that stuff all the time, and I'll listen to what people are saying, predictions.
What talking heads do you listen to?
I try to listen to everyone. I listen to from the right wing to the middle ground to the super left. And I was trying to refer to you like before the Majority Report. There's a far left daily show. They have so many great interviews from the far left perspective. And I'm not a far left person, but I dig those interviews.
Okay. The thing is, what's the environment? What problems are they trying to solve, and who has the best idea?
Right. So saying that we're 64 days away from midterm elections.
Donald Trump has basically wrecked his party. Okay. So you're probably going to get. I haven't really even looked at it at local elections, right, or what they call domestic elections, because One is boring right now to me, and plus there's other things going on. Um, Donald Trump is the reason that Donald Trump hasn't been impeached or attacked by the Democrats is because he's doing the work for them. If you wanted a reason not to vote for the Republican Party, who's going to give you the best reason not to vote for the Republican Party? Donald Trump. So he's doing the work for you. So can Donald Trump coattails actually override all the fuck ups that he's done, actually get his congressman elected in the midterms? Probably not. So I would think, I would predict you're going to get a surge in the Democrats, whether either they're going to get take over the House or get very close to it. That would be my prediction. Just for me eyeballing it. I haven't really followed it that much. Whether the polls reflect it or not, I do believe that's the way it's going, because Donald Trump can't keep from shooting his mouth off or shooting himself in the foot. And have a lot of anti-Republican sentiment. It's like when we have a black guy that won the Democratic primary in Florida, which is a very, very red state.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'm with you. And I look at the polls, right? So if I'm looking at the polls, it's showing that there should be a big gain in the House for the Democrats, and the Republicans right now they stand 51 to 49. They, according to the polls, they could increase by 1 or 2 seats.
Probably more than that.
Because I'm talking about the Republicans could increase because there's Democrats who are in states like South Dakota, Florida, Missouri, and stuff like that, where these are very heavily white populated states. And what the polls is showing is that America's becoming even more racially divided political, where the Republicans are just all white or primary white, and Democrats are multiracial.
If you have 100 million people that are out of work, don't have any job prospects, and your party can't give you health care, screwing up your health care, on top of say the farmers, the trade war that Donald Trump started is actually killing a lot of businesses and a lot of livelihoods in the Midwest. Would that not a lot start to you leaning toward a Democrat?
Yeah, you would think so.
You would think so.
Yeah.
So eventually, if they're leaning that way, it's going to reflect itself in the polls sooner or later, right?
Yeah. Again, I would think so.
So in anything close or marginal, Republicans have the possibility of losing seats. That's why I believe you're going to have a shift. Had Donald Trump carried through what he's going to say, and it actually worked, you have a shot. But the thing is, he's probably done things just about as badly as you probably could, as far as public wise. So any goodwill he had, coattails that he had a very, very small amount of coattails actually pulled, because he barely got in himself. So whatever goodwill and coattails the Republican Party actually had has probably been either diminished or actually decimated. So I would think, regardless of what the polls said, that the Democrats should regain control of the House, not the Senate, but the House.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think
the polls probably reflect that.
Yeah, I think right now, Trump's approval rating was in the low 40s, high 30s. So he's not very popular. It's pretty low. It's not as low as Bush was at his lowest, but I think he's lower than almost everybody else. But he didn't start off with much. He started off like 46%.
Trump's approval rating. Where's Trump's approval rating right now?
I haven't checked it this week, but last week it was ABC News poll had him at 38.
38. That's pretty low for a first-term president. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, that's real low.
So in other words, that just just that plus the press. He was a darling of the press when he ran for president, right? Trump
absolutely
could do no wrong. They followed him. They gave him all this free publicity. Is he a darling of the press right now?
No, he's not right now. I think that I think the media thought he was like a comedy. Like he was kind of embarrassing Republican Party by being so bigoted and such. And I think they just didn't believe. I think like Obama, he didn't believe that somebody could be so evil and win.
Apollo, bring your ass on. Bring your ass on before I bounce you with that stupid shit. Bring your ass up. If you want to get in, you got 3 minutes to get on before I bounce you with that dumbass shit. None of them dumbass slogans. You don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. His approval ratings today is 41% from the Gallup poll, 38% from the Emerson poll. Yeah, that's pretty low.
Yeah. I mean, because I actually, in this environment, you need a good president. I said that when he first got elected. I hope that he would be a good president because you can't afford a bad one in this environment. Because any mistake he makes is going to be magnified.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think we're on the precipice. We could tank at any minute. All the debts that people are running, and who wants to lose their health care?
Healthcare. What is it? Social Security. And we're not even talking about state retirements that are in trouble. You're not even talking about a trade war. It doesn't help your economy at all. The tax breaks that you gave, all that stuff, doing all that stuff, especially the bad economy, is not normally what you would do. So some of the things I kind of understand why he did it. I don't agree with his decision, but it's not the stuff he put in is not going to be popular at all. And so everything he says is probably going to reflect in the polls. You went after health care. You had people all over the country screaming at Republicans because you're going to retract the health care, make it more expensive, or actually eliminate it altogether. That's not a recipe for disaster, for success. And we're not talking about urban Black communities. We're talking about Midwestern, small white communities that are actually chasing Republicans out of their town halls. And This is just the very beginning.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
Just at the beginning. How does that bolster a Republican election?
Yeah. Well, I think that the trade war idea would have been good. Say you did it in the 80s or the 90s when we were going from we're moving from the industrial age here and shipping stuff overseas. Like when Ross Perot was talking about the NAFTA deal and the giant sucking sound, it would have made sense back then. But the economy is so changed, so advanced now. Everything changes where the computerized and you can't do that now. You can't go like, oh, we're gonna. I think what it is, a lot of these white folks grew up, in these Midwest towns when the whole town used to be, centered around the local, factory. And that stuff been gone for 25, 30 years. And plus white folks are looking at, it's like we see it on the statistics when they say, the life expectancy rate or the replacement rate of white people are going down, but they're living that stuff like every day. They see their towns that used to have like, 100,000 people in it, and now it's like 30,000 people. So they see that, they feel it. And that's super anxious for white folks. And then they see the border and then people coming over. And
there's nothing they could, okay. They all this stuff is set in motion. You can't reverse it. Republicans and Democrats should have set a consistent immigration policy 30 years ago. Who's going to be allowed in, under what purposes, what programs, and how you're going to send them back. You need them to work. Put them under a certain program. But the thing is, you put them under a program, you can't work them for substandard wages. They had to be treated like citizens, which actually brings up costs, which is why the Republicans didn't want to do in the first place. They want them here. They want them to work, but they don't want them to work like Americans and have costs like Americans. So Republicans have been bringing them in, It never immigration never stopped under a Republican, did it?
No way. It might have increased.
In fact, under Obama, more immigrants got pushed out under Obama than I would say the last presidents for the last 30 years.
Right. They refer to him as the deporter in chief.
The deporter in chief. But the thing is, since he's a Democrat, that's not popular for a Democrat, is it?
No.
So they downplayed that.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, I don't look at a party. I don't look at elections. I look at the policies and I look at the environment. Do the policies fit the environment? If they don't, it doesn't matter who's in office. A lot of things Obama did, as far as say the Libyan war, I didn't agree with. A lot of stuff that he did, I didn't agree with. You know, Obama would have cut the SNAP cards and a lot of the welfare and the unemployment insurance if he could have. He couldn't. He tried. Actually, they ran experiments continuously trying to see what happens if we cut the SNAP cards. You're going to have riots in the streets. That's how come he didn't do it.
Exactly.
And he started decreasing it in 2013, well before Donald Trump got elected. I haven't looked at it since Donald Trump got elected. I don't know how far he has to push it down in the last a year or two. I have to look at it. But the thing is, Donald Trump hasn't done anything much differently than Obama actually did it, because he can't. The environment won't let him. He's restricted.
Yeah, I think under Obama, the federal budget was shrinking.
Yeah. Well, because
the deficit was shrinking.
Because it got bloated. Okay, they bloated the federal government to keep it afloat. They had to. Right. Otherwise, you're going to have 100 million people starving. So they borrowed a lot of money. They bloated the federal government. They actually extended things like unemployment insurance. They put a lot of people on what they call disability, SSI, a whole bunch of shit to keep money in people's pockets, so they wouldn't be destitute. They wouldn't have a whole bunch of people in the street. Okay, they did all that. So as the economy got better, guess what they started doing? They started cutting that shit back.
Yeah, exactly. Then Trump came in and he blew up the deficit by $1 trillion.
Which actually, as a conservative, that makes no sense.
Yeah, and the bill's going to come. The first bill is going to come due. I think it was this month. This is the month they're supposed to shut down the government. Was it September?
Yeah. Yeah. I doubt they will, but we'll see.
Right. Not before the election there, but you never know. He said he was going to shut down the government to push the build the wall type thing. So we'll see.
We'll see. We'll see.
Because that first bill is coming due, and I'm anxious to see what they're going to do about it.
Probably nothing. If I have to make a guess, probably nothing. And building a wall is not going to do any good anyway. It hasn't. All the walls you have out now don't do a hill of beans. Doesn't do any good. Because we have so many gates and double fences and barriers in California. Guess what they do? They tunnel under the motherfuckers. Bring in drugs. They bring in people. They do all kinds of stuff. Every month they fill up they actually pour cement down a tunnel. And the Hispanics will actually build one just as quickly as we fill them up. And you're talking about a border, what 800? What is it? 800-mile border wall, something like that. There'll be so many tunnels underneath those walls, you probably won't be able to count them. Rael, do you want to come on, man? Do you want to come on? Or are you just clowning from the chat? If you're asking me. I have a hangout so you can actually come on. Do you actually want to come on and debate it? Or are you just gonna clown from the cheap seats? Obama was not elected to save black people. He was elected to keep the system afloat. That's why he was elected. He was not elected to save black people. Black people didn't elect Obama. Okay? White folks did. The Chinese in the G20 asked for Obama. That's why you got him over Hillary Clinton. Second time he was elected, the Queen, actually the biggest financier of Obama, they found out, was actually the Crown, the Queen of England. Queen of England got him elected the second time. Hey, Queen Majesty. But anyway, if Rael, if you want to come on and debate it from the in fact, you got about 5 minutes. I'm actually going to get off. Got other shit to do. Go ahead, Kavina. But you have to understand why these people get elected and why they don't, because this is what I'm talking about, being a shepherd. Because you guys are reacting from the bottom up, looking at polls and all this bullshit. The powers that be actually frame who's actually gonna actually be up for election. Okay, according to what they think the environment might be, and they can quickly snatch that shit away because you have a Dennis Kucinich or Ron Paul that could get elected. They actually are popular. All of a sudden they don't run. Why is that? Because somebody told them that they couldn't win. Bernie Sanders could have run as a socialist or a Green Party. How come he didn't? It's because even if he did get elected, he wouldn't be safe. It is what it is. Okay. You know, look at Bernie Sanders. Then Bernie Sanders got shut down. He didn't say shit. Why? Why? Because he knows the game. He's in Washington D.C. He knows the game. They decided on Hillary. They took a chance on Hillary Clinton. It didn't work out. She's unelectable. I knew that way before. As soon as she got won the primary, I already knew that she wasn't going to get elected. They just knew because the other folks that are involved wasn't going to let her be elected. Which is why I doubt she will run again. If she does, the other half of those emails will come out, which is something that she doesn't want to happen. In fact, her foundation that has what $100 million will actually start to evaporate because all those those child things that went on between those that were actually involved in the Clinton Foundation, that stuff will actually resurface if she decides to run. But it's on her. She's crazy enough to actually try it. Anyway, I don't think anybody else wants to get on. So it is 9 o'clock, and it's nice to have you on. And I will see you guys later. A Clinton repeat will not happen. Bernie Sanders is too old, but we'll see. But the thing is, who's going to lead the U? If the UBI has to come and automation comes, and people are actually thrown out of work or possibly thrown out of work, do you want a capitalist or you want a socialist? Because a capitalist will throw you to the wolves. Okay, and then you have to worry about them folks turning into wolves and coming after you. Do you want that? Anyway. Oh, oh, baby mama video. Yeah. Anyway, folks, I'm gonna get out of here. There are no skills. Why you guys keep saying dumb shit? There are no skills, boss. You guys keep saying dumb shit. There are no skills. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. Peace.